Hey there, in this video, I'm going to be walking you through how to scale ads for a SaaS company up to 8 figures per year and really what the tactical steps are and how to do that. So a little bit of an intro. My name is Dan. I work with companies that are in the SaaS space, B2B and some B2C companies, and we've scaled multiple companies past the multiple million per year mark using paid advertising. So in this video, I'll go through the common mistakes, how you build leverage, how to branch out from your ad strategy, the exact system that we're using to scale ads for ourselves and for our clients, as well as why you should fire your media buyer, do something instead. So stick around. Number 4 is really important, as well as how to test your ads. So first off is, how do you avoid a lot of common mistakes? So the highest leverage stuff, honestly, as a C-suite individual in a company, CEO, CMO, etc., is really, if you break down a SaaS company, we can break it down to like 3 major categories apart from like leadership. You really have product, right? So this is like developers, etc. And then you have your customer service, so your CS team, and then you have sales and marketing, right? So honestly, to grow the revenue, and that's what we're talking about in this video, is we're going to be focusing in on how do we expand the sales and marketing effort. Now, to do that, you have to generate pipeline, right? So the first thing that you actually have to do is actually have more qualified appointments for your SaaS company on your calendar, right? I'm pretty sure you've established that at this point. Now, what to do is there's a few things. You can look at leads, but really what we want to look at in terms of if we're doing well is, are we getting qualified demos booked in, right? So that's this down here. This is kind of the gold star, or like the North Star of what we want to be doing. So in order to do that, we have 2 massive levers that we can pull. There's sort of 2 sides of this. Now, obviously there's inbound, which is things like people doing your content strategy, having referrals, word of mouth, all that sort of stuff. But you can't really 10x your company, go from $1 million a year to 10 million just by saying, hey, give us more referrals, right? It's very, very difficult to do, if not impossible. So that's really why we focus on outbound or direct response marketing, all that sort of stuff, to get people to come to us that are in the buying pocket. So this is really where it takes cash and creativity to do so. So as one of these leaders, or as someone who's running the company, obviously you have to have an amazing product. But really what we have to focus on is, how do we leverage your creativity and your time to get as many of the right people to work with us? So that's really marketing, getting the right MQLs in order to give them to your sales team so they don't churn and so you can start getting more business generated. So the first part is branching out your TAM, right? So typically when we're working with companies, we see that in that first stage, 0 to 1, is really getting one problem to one persona and doing that with one software or service, right? So that's how we get to 1 million ARR. But in order to get to here, to 10 million, we probably want to be focusing on that same problem, but for a number of different personas. And we can offer a few different solutions depending on that, right? So we want to have some upsells, some maybe more enterprise plans, longer lock-in, etc. And so the way to do that is, typically when it comes to the ad strategy, this is probably what a lot of companies have done. This is really what we see, is that when we start working with companies, they're typically running a handful of ads. And this is on a monthly basis. You might have an angle. And just to kind of explain this, there's like a major part of an ad, so a concept for the ad, I'm going to be calling an angle. And then a variation of that could be, say a different hook, a different, first 15 seconds of the ad. And I'll get into that in a little bit. But typically this is what it looks like. So this is when you're at that 1 million mark. You have a huge TAM here of a bunch of people that could be using your product, but you're only really tapping into this small section, right? Now, once we expand a bit here, this is going to, overlay this. But essentially, as we grow the ad strategy, we want to have a lot of different ads that are across different parts of the TAM, right? So we can break it up, maybe say solar companies or chemical production companies or construction companies, right? All of these different ones that are a bit different that you can start to service, right? So this is really important when you start to get into it, because you'll then be able to talk to more people and have different ads that really speak to their core emotion. And that really qualifies them even more to jump in and book a call with your team. So the exact system that we're using right now, and I'm just going to front this by saying your constraint, right? I'll make this big. Your constraint is not media buying, right? In 2024, as I'm making this video, the thing that's not going to drive or change your SaaS's growth, it's not going to be the person clicking buttons, right? Because although we've had a lot of different changes in the media buying landscape in terms of iOS and things like that have limited our ability to track and monitor and say, hey, look, we want to have this specific demographic, psychographic, age, whatever type of person to respond to our ads. We don't have that optionality anymore. But obviously the companies are very smart. They want to make money. They want to take your ad dollars. So what they've done instead is gone ahead and made AI that works incredibly well. So a lot of the button pressing and stuff and media buying seeming like some sort of a dark art or something like that, or some craft, really throw that out the window. You know, there's people you can pay a few $100 a month that can really do this. But I would honestly recommend you or someone on your marketing team to just take care of this, because it's really not that difficult. You just need to watch out and have a proper tracking system in place and some software. So that's not such a big deal. So honestly, if you have a media buyer, we've removed a lot of the media buyers from our team as well, and it's just really condensed this. Now, media buying is not the constraint. It's really content production, right? So a lot of companies, and you hear Alex Hormozy talk about this all the time, is you need to be creating an incredible amount of content in order to actually see what works with your prospects, right? It makes a lot of sense, actually, right? You need to be trying new things, being ahead on the trends, doing all these sorts of things within your ads, right? Not from a content, like let's get a bunch of likes perspective, but in your ad content, it needs to be relevant, and it also needs to speak and stand out to your prospects, right? So what I recommend doing is 5 tests a week. Now, this is pretty good if you're really trying to scale, right? We want to be doing at least 5 tests a week. And basically, I'll break down the numbers here of how we're actually going to be testing 640 new ads per month, right? So as I said earlier, there's an ad angle. And so this could be, you know, your solution helping this specific person, and it's kind of about a specific topic, right? And then there are different hooks or variations, right? So we can have 4 different variations for every angle. So this could be a first 15 seconds. This could, you know, keeping the majority of the ad the same concept, but just tweaking the first line, right? Or something like that. That's really going to get people to tie in differently, right? You might have one where you're in the camera, like in someone's face. You might have one where you're kind of whispering, right? Or things like that. Or it could be, hey, I have a female do the ad, right? Or I have yourself or someone else or a different face do the same ad, right? Those are all different variations. Now, we're going to get all these different permutations of the ad through the ad manager. And that's really where I said the media buying isn't so important. This is really more the tactical stuff here. So screenshot this if you want. This is pretty important. So what we want to do is create 20 new creatives. So 20 different offers or angles for the month, right? So you can have that 5 per week. Now, this will mean 20 different pieces of copy, right? 20 different parts or ways of pushing the offer. Then you want to go ahead and film that, get your team to film that, whoever's going to do that, and then get 4 different top lines or headlines, headers, right, for the ads for each individual ad, right? So we want to have 4 different ones, and then 2 different variations per ad, okay? So in doing so, that's really how we're going to get the 640 different permutations. And the way to do that is essentially we're going to use something called dynamic creative here. And I wrote this here. Essentially, it's going to be testing and using the budget and saying, all right, this copy with this headline and this variation of the video are going to go together, and then it will automatically sort of parse the spend. Now, not everything's going to get the same amount of spend. It's obviously going to prioritize the ones that are working well and functioning. Now, it's up to you, though, to take that information and sort of break out in the ads manager and see, okay, which one of those copies are actually getting the spend and are they performing, right? And I'm going to talk in a second here about KPIs and how to figure that out. So now we're going to the section about firing the media buyer, basically doing this instead. So number 4 is really, we want to identify the winners of your ad campaign. Now we use that DC, the dynamic creative, to identify those winners, and then make sure that everything in here is already tested, right? And so the way that we do that is see, okay, if this one spent 0, if copy A spent 0, and then the second one spent, you know, a lot of the budget, and there's 640 of these, you know, we want to make sure that everything is getting a proper test, because oftentimes it's the one that you never expected is actually going to probably perform. So we want to have the winners be their own thing. So we'll say, okay, this copy, this headline, this video, and make that into its own thing, its own campaign, right? And so we'll put those winners somewhere else where they'll actually get more spend, and then we'll try and scale that up. right? And that's really where we're going to be able to get a lot more information. And that will help give us feedback for the next month when we say, okay, maybe it's this person's face, this type of a location, this type of a hook, this type of an offer really works well, right? So it's really, as I said, going back to this sort of visual representation, it could be like, okay, this one is doing really well in the solar company niche, and it's got this person's face on it. And then what we want to do is just put a lot more spend behind it and do a lot more variations that are close to this, right? And that's really how you hone in on which one's working well. So back to here. The way in which we do this, and once we've sort of generated some winners, is we want to generate new ideas for ads for the following month or for more tests. What I recommend doing is reading books like Scientific Advertising, Breakthrough Advertising, Great Leads. All of those really give me ideas when I'm trying to generate ideas for ads. And I just let them kind of come through and give me inspiration to do that. I also like to go through and scroll with ads, and then I'll record other people's ads, kind of get some inspiration, put them in a folder, and then I'll create ads that are different, right? I just want to get that inspiration and see what's going on. You can also watch your own sales calls, especially with B2B SaaS. Super important to understand what are people objecting to and how do you incorporate that into the hook or how you propose your solution, right? Another great one is just use testimonials. That's it's a great way of using retargeting ads as well to get people back in the back end. And to see, people that were on the fence, hey, book in because this is such an amazing software, etc. It's really great. So all of these are great for creating new angles. Test religiously, right? So all of this together is really what it's going to take in order to scale up that ad campaign spend. Now, this is really how we test the ads, and this is more on the tactical side of like, what are the numbers that you should be looking at? So bear with me here. Now, when it comes to your ads, you have to understand that the pixel is sort of the key part. The pixel needs to have enough information to be able to direct the right people. As I said, because of AI, it needs to have the right type of data to generate outputs, right? So a lot of times, as they say in like computer science, garbage in, garbage out. So if you don't give it enough data and quality of data, it's not going to be able to give you good results. So what I recommend doing is in the B2B space, we're looking at a cost per book call of around $400 to $600. And you want to be testing basically 3 to 5 times the target of what we're trying to generate over 4 days. So in terms of this, we want to get about 30 to 50 pixel fires per week to season the pixel, to get it up to speed. Now, minimum, I would say 20, right? We don't really want to go much lower than that, or else it's not going to really be giving you a lot of data here. So to get, let's just say our goal is like, say, 30 or 40, right? So 40 conversions a week. And, we can look at cost per book call. That's kind of the ultimate goal, as I said earlier. But typically, you'll also get more leads, and that will be more lead events triggering this. So that'll be a pixel fire as a lead event. So we would say, okay, for about $100 for a lead, depending on your industry, obviously huge asterisk there, $100 a lead times 40 is $4K a week, which equals $571 a day, right? So it means if you're doing a 4-day to test, which is kind of, what I'd recommend, that's putting you at about $2,000 for testing there, right? So this is honestly pretty good. We want to keep this around like 1.5 to around 2.5K for this testing period. So hopefully that's all making a lot of sense here. I'm not going to make this video too much longer. I just want to make sure that you kind of have a really close understanding of what it takes to scale. And really on the back end here, there's a whole infrastructure in terms of you need to be keeping track of the angles, and there's a lot of organization. So it really does require that someone is in there taking care of all the organization of which creative ideas are working, really making sure that all the stuff in the ads manager, we're seeing which ones are working as well, which ones aren't, and then learning from that, implementing that the next month. So that's really what I want you to take away from this video is here are some tactical advice in terms of the numbers that we're seeing right now for our SaaS partners that are booking in and getting a lot of calls. It's really able to scale quickly, right? But at the same time, you want to really apply this for yourself. And look, if you want someone to actually help you and do a lot of the stuff for you, create the ads, the angles, do the media buying, do all of that sort of stuff, you can go ahead and book a call with me and my team at Syroscape. We do this for B2B SaaS companies. So that's it. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.